Hello there, I'm Adam Peterson. I've been a project leader for a long time, and I want to share with you the best possible way to kick off a new team. Now, I've done this a lot of times. It never goes the same way twice. But this is, if you can do this, this is the right way to start off your team in the best possible way. And that might be an ideal. A lot of this might not be that easy, not that even possible maybe for where you work in your organization. But I'm going to set the bar and say, here's how I've seen it work the best when I've had time to actually do this and do it right and had the support of my company to bring people together and really have a good kickoff meeting to a project. Now, the world we live in now, this might be virtual. I'm going to say in person or get people together. This can be done virtually. It just might be a little bit harder, takes a little more facilitation, but we want to bring people together early in the project and have them own the project. And the sooner we do that, the sooner they're carrying the ball and you as a project leader can go and manage stakeholders and do your other things you have to do besides this one project. Because really, none of us just lead one project most of the time. We're on multiple activities. So the sooner we can get that team running and up and going and working together well, then the sooner that we can actually pay attention to other things than babysitting the team. So the key here of that successful kickoff meeting is I've already done the job. I've done the job up front of getting voice of the customer, understand my stakeholder requirements. I have a charter. I've heard lots of ideas and solutions, but I've also boiled that down to the triple constraint. What are they really after? Is this something where we have to be first to market and we're trying to beat a competition? We saw something published or heard them talk and we've got to take a technology off the shelf and drive it to the market as soon as we can? Or are we saying, no, we have a good presence in the market and we need to develop that next generation? We're looking for that step change to go out there. We enjoy high market share, so we're going to take some time and develop the next generation of high quality material. And quality is the most important driver, not time. So I've got that boiled down. I know that, and I'm going to call that really this, the mission of our project. And even though I have lots of information, I'm really going to start with that mission and bring that to this first meeting. But even before I do that, I'm going to meet with everybody one-on-one. And this takes time, but I am not taking the risk of putting them in a room and not having some background conversations on them. I want a personal connection with them before I have something bad to talk to them about. If you just meet with your team as a team all the time, and when there's a performance issue, the first time you call one of your team members is because they've missed a deadline, that's not the first conversation I want to have. I want to connect with them first and then have that follow-up conversation, knowing them and knowing their, what their situation is going into that. So I do. I call them. I find out if they're excited to be on the project, if they're already overworked or, not looking forward to this at all. Depending if they have a lot of experience, I'll definitely say, hey, it'll be great having you on the team. This experience you bring to the team, really emphasize why it's important and what they're going to bring, what their role is. If they're not that experienced, if they're new, if I've had new hires be assigned to my projects, first thing they've worked on coming out of college, and I just praise them for their excitement. It's like, you're going to learn so much and you're going to ask great questions, right? And please do that. Don't be shy. I need you. Your job here is to ask all those questions that we might be making assumptions around, and encourage them even before we kick off the meeting. So I'm having those conversations. Then the day of the meeting, or our first time getting together, I'm going to do the first job of a project leader. And this is, when I say the first job of a project leader, I mean it's all the time. It's not just at the kickoff meeting. The first job of a project leader is always to define reality. We have to sit there and say, this is what's happening. We have this market share. This is the competition catching up to us. We have to make something better. And so that's defining reality. I'm going to do that all the way through the project. When we get new data, when something bad happens, before I overreact and let my emotions overwhelm me, wait, what is reality? What did we learn? What do we know? And then we can talk about what might happen and what we need to do. But define reality is a big key part of being a project leader. So I do that for the team. Here's the case for change. Here's why we're being asked to do something. And now more specifically, on one slide with not a lot of words, this is the goal. And that's that triple constraint. Which part of the triple constraint are we really trying to do? Is it cost, quality, time? What are we looking for here? and let them ask questions. I'm not going to put a lot of words up there. Again, I had a lot of conversation with stakeholders. I wrote, a fairly detailed charter even, but that doesn't take center stage at this meeting. And they've probably heard it. We're all in the same company, right? They've probably heard, oh yeah, we're supposed to modify so-and-so and scale it up in China or whatever. No, that doesn't come in. All we have right now is this. We're starting with a blank slate. This is ours to create. Yeah, we have expectations, but that's my job to manage those. We'll go back and have those conversations later. What is the best way we can accomplish this goal? Let them ask some smart questions and listen to each other talk about that a little bit. So once we do that, I'll let it sink in. Okay, great. We understand it. We talked it. We defined it better. We kind of pushed around the edges. I'm going to take a break. We're going to do a team activity. So the next thing on the agenda, besides here's the mission and the goal, is team activity. And that means I want you guys to know each other. Maybe you all know each other. Maybe you kind of know each other from working together. But on my team, you're going to get to know each other better. And we're going to get closer. And that builds trust. It builds vulnerability. It helps conflict go much better when it happens. Inevitably, in a creative system, you're going to have conflict. So there's different ways to do this. My favorite is really, it's just telling stories. Just let people talk about themselves, give them a structure to do that, and where people listen and share common interest or background kind of things. So one of my favorites is called Growing Up Together. It's a simple way. You just start asking about early childhood memories, and you can come back to this actually the first several meetings with your team and say, tell me early childhood memory. Tell me about what you wanted to be when you grow up. Tell me about an exciting thing that happened when you were a teenager. And as people get closer together, you can ask the harder questions. Tell me a struggle you've had to overcome. And those things can build a team. While we're doing good technical work, while we're doing the work we have to have, it's actually making very solid connections that's actually building the organization for the long term, because that's going to outlast the project. These people are going to know each other better, hopefully work together in the future, and at the same time are really coming together on this one project to deliver the result that we're hoping we will get. Of course, you can do out-of-the-box activities as well. Working Genius is a very good one that's out there now. If you want to go out to a website, have them take an assessment, talk through that. There's great podcasts and things that will help you take that activity and use it with your team. You can also plot your disc profiles as a group. Normally, people have to know each other pretty well to do that. So if you have a team that's worked together a lot, that's kind of a fun one to do and talk through your disc wheel as a group. So after that activity's done, then you come back and say, great, this is the mission. We've talked about that. We've defined it. We've asked our questions. Now, how are we going to get it done? And it might seem, like a silly thing to ask because we have a workflow. We have stage gate systems set up or things like that in our company. But the fact is, we have to make decisions, right? How much technology are we going to screen? What goes into the funnel that we're going to look at? Should we look at that thing that's a little out there and maybe risky? It might work. Are we going to put that in our scope or not? If we're time driven, no, we aren't. If it's quality driven, we probably should. But let's talk about that. Let's be very clear what's on the table, what's not on the table. What manufacturing process do we think we would go into? Do we have to build a new manufacturing process? What is that? Or do we have to go into existing because it's time driven, right? Or should we be thinking about that new microreactor that hasn't been proven yet? But maybe that would be the key technology enabling something. So we talk about that as a team and say, what are we actually going to do in this project? What's in our scope of what we want to work on? What do we have to understand for cost, right? What is our processing time, yield? What things do we have to do so we can answer those questions? We know we have to answer them, but how soon? Are we doing this first or that first? And if we do the yield discussion and then change the reactor, well, we got to do the yield thing again. So let's make that decision. So this whole time you're kind of mapping out first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 12th. What are we going to do? And your team knows this. Don't do it for them. Let them talk. You can do it. If you're all in the same room, you can use Post-it notes. If you're online, you can use some of the great mind map tools. There's lots of ways to move things around on the screen now. Who are What kind of volumes do we need to sample customers? Who are our lead customers? Who can get us customer meetings? When would those happen? What do we need before we set up customer meetings? What do we want to know? And so you just walk through that and you build a nice little chart that fits on one page that says, here's how we plan on doing the project. It's not carved in stone. The team can change it later. The team owns it. It's not Adam's project. It's their project, right? So once we feel good about that, once we say at a high level, okay, here's where we are. And, oh, by the way, can we do this? Or do we need somebody else on the team? And that's my job as a project leader, is to go get those resources or secure, analytical time or what we need to make sure we can get through this, or new test method development, whatever that might be, so that we can get this project done as fast as possible. Because honestly, even if speed isn't the driver, it's fun to keep it moving fast. We don't want it to stall out because we're waiting on analytical in that example, right? Now, the last thing, and one of the most important things probably, is once you've taken them through, this is our key mission, you got to know each other better, here's how we're going to approach the project, and then remind everybody, hey, I am the project leader and I am going to run these meetings. We're going to have regular team meetings. We're going to have regular team meetings. We're going to work this plan that you guys just came up with, and we're going to meet every 2 weeks. I want us to have a standing meeting on the calendar, and yes, we can cancel it if we don't need it, but we're going to have a standing meeting every week, every 2 weeks, depending on your timing, how much work is getting done. And let them come up with what works. Because if it's a global team, it's a pain for somebody, right, to be up early or stay up late, how we're going to do that. And maybe we alternate that. 1 week it's early, 1 week it's late. So the folks in Asia don't have to be up in their evening every time, right? And so let the team come to that decision. Your decision is we are having these regularly. And once a month probably isn't regular enough, right? You miss one of those, that's a big gap then. If you're doing every 2 weeks and you miss one, it shouldn't be horrible, right? If it's really speed driven and you miss a week, no big deal. But as a project leader, you set that and make that happen for your team. All right, I hope that helps you understand what a kickoff meeting looks like and how we build team ownership by doing that. The ownership comes because they know each other better and they built the plan. And then if you hold them accountable to that plan, and every meeting you're bringing that back up, hopefully they aren't looking at you saying, well, this is your project. No, you married them into it right there at the very start. And so if that's one meeting, if that's 2 meetings, I hope you're able to pull that off because it really will set up your team for success to get through the forming, storming to norm to perform as fast as possible. Thank you for listening. I'm Adam Peterson.